So AOC has been documenting her entire egg freezing experience, and a lot of people have some opinions about it, surprisingly. But I think overall, it shows that motherhood, this incredible journey, could actually start way before you even conceive and even have a baby. Because motherhood can start way before you even get pregnant or even give birth. Literally, motherhood can really start from decisions or appointments. It can be fertility testing, the injections. It could be about saving money. Unfortunately, it could also be about loss. And it could also be a lot of asking yourself, is this even going to work? Personally, I actually know a lot about this journey. I did IVF. I did 2 rounds of IVF to expand my family. And I did a very similar process to what AOC is doing right now in terms of retrieving her eggs. I did 2 egg retrievals, and it was quite the experience. And watching her go through it has brought back a lot of emotions, a lot of those memories, those experiences that I went through. Definitely tapping back into some of that energy that I literally can feel in my core. It's kind of crazy, to be honest with you. I haven't talked about this journey in detail in a really long time, although I've been very public about my infertility journey. As you may know, I'm a big proponent in terms of reproductive rights and access to IVF. So this is like right up my alley, honestly. But there's a big difference between telling about an experience and showing it. And I'm just really thankful that AOC is sharing and showing it to us. And honestly, I wish I would have documented my experience more, but at least we have this, and we have this incredible public figure who is living a very dynamic and busy life, showing in real time how this is affecting her and what the process is really like, to honestly destigmatize that it is something that can be perceived as normal in terms of growing and expanding your family. So she's been sharing day by day the process of what this is like, from a mental, physical, emotional, financial, even just balancing the work while you're doing this, because life doesn't stop. And we're going to watch together how exactly this process works. And I'm going to give a little bit of my own feedback about what I think about it, having gone through the process and thankfully being successful through it.
All right, come with me to my last workout of this whole egg freezing cycle. So this is something that I discovered on this process, is that after about 4 or 5 days in, you can't work out anymore. So today I'm on day 3. I'm heading back to New York. I have my first ultrasound checkup appointment tomorrow. And after that, no more working out. And the reason for that is because your ovaries really grow a lot in this process to facilitate making a lot of eggs, and which is what the drugs are for. I'll get into that later. But what that also means is that you can't have much, you don't want to risk something known as torsion. You don't want to twist your ovaries. So you can't do almost any exercise at all. No heavy lifting, no yoga, no twisting, just walking. So I'm on my way to do my last strength training and lifting session, and let's go.
So I definitely remember where I started IVF. I went on this journey of trying to be my best self. Like, I was locked in. I got a personal trainer. I did cleanses. I went vegan for a bit. I was trying to have my body in the best shape as possible. And I did do what I was needing to do. Let's put it that way. I looked good. I ain't gonna lie. It's probably the best that I've ever looked in terms of my body. But once it was time for me to prepare to get those eggs out, like AOC, all of that movement stuff, it had to stop. I had to stop the strength training. I was doing a lot of yoga because I knew I needed to center and calm myself down a lot. But I even stopped all of that just simply because you want your body at rest and at peace as much as possible. And when you work out, that is technically stress. There's good stress, for better lack of words, but you want to limit that as much as possible when you're going through these treatments. So I definitely understand where she's at in terms of, doing that last roundup and workout. And I see she also shared, she really got into strength training before she embarked on this journey, which is, again, very similar to what I did. I I barely picked up weights until I got this personal trainer, and she showed me, I'll never forget her, Yulia. She was amazing. She showed me how to handle the gym so I wasn't intimidated, so I could be as tough as a mother before I became a mother. So very similar and parallel experience, I could definitely say. Now, when I started the process, it was definitely very much like, because I didn't have that physical outlet anymore, I definitely started getting in my head a little bit, which I think is normal because you're going through something that a lot of folks just don't understand and it's just not their experience. And I was very much just like, is this going to work? Is this actually going to do what it needs to do? And, I'm injecting myself and putting these things in my body. Is this actually going to work? And then it's also just, you go through all of this. Is this actually going to end up being a baby? And you could be as obsessed as you want about it. I mean, every single person's situation is very different. I've spoken to multiple people who've gone through IVF, and I know no one who has had a copy and paste situation. It is truly unique because we are all unique.
In terms of side effects, let's talk side effects. I'm feeling them. Well, yeah, I'm feeling them. So last night, my sleep was better, which is good. I think one of the reasons I'm even standing like this right now is because I do feel the bloat is real. So biologically, your ovaries are usually the size of walnuts. I don't know. A walnut, well, I guess a walnut's kind of more like this. Anyway, ovaries are typically the size of walnuts inside your body. And in this process, they can grow to as big as an orange. So I'm going to have 2 oranges. Some people even say grapefruit, which is crazy. So you're going from a walnut to a full orange, 2 of them inside your body. And so I'm feeling the bloat, or I don't know if bloat is. I'm feeling the walnuts turning into oranges. I'm feeling like a little more tired, like just doing this. I'm like feeling it, like anywhere between a 13 to 20 day process, depending on where you are in your cycle, when you start. And the hormones have not changed yet. I have another checkup in a few days in which they might start changing the doses. But I also hear that later on, the mood stuff really starts to kick in.
Yeah. So definitely, I remember that like it was yesterday as far as that bloated feeling. That bloated feeling is the realest thing. And the way I love what she shared in terms of, expanding from a walnut size, which is when you have a normal period, like that's already a lot. Like if you've been there, if you menstruate, it's already a lot when that process happens. And that's just for one freaking egg. Okay. But then imagine, because during these retrievals, they're trying to optimize this time and get as many eggs as possible. She talks about in the video as well that try to stimulate all these follicles to release all these eggs. And personally, I had a lot of eggs. I have a lot of eggs, which is great. They were able to stimulate with me getting to retrieve 30 eggs my first round and 40 eggs the second round, which is a lot. Like some people, they're just happy to get 5. I got 30 the first round. So we're thinking, yes, like the odds are in my favor because I'm only like 30. How old was I? 33 at the time when I was doing this. So I'm not that old yet. And anyways, that's a whole other thing, but I'm not that old. And they retrieve the 30 eggs. They, take them, mix them with my husband's stuff. And ultimately those 30 embryos that they were able to harvest, I guess, for better lack of words, none of them could be implanted in me. We did pre-genetic screening with our IVF, which I highly recommend if you do decide to do it. It is additional cost typically. I don't know any jobs or places that typically cover it that I've heard from other folks who do this process, but I think it is worth every penny to help you alleviate and not have that anxiety of, if I'm going to put this embryo in, and can I actually maintain it to term, you know what I mean? And nurture and grow it to term. And because honestly, that's what happens to a lot of miscarriages, is that this embryo is not viable enough to grow to term. It has genetic defects. Mine had genetic defects. All the 30 that they worked on, none of them lasted and none of them could make it, or they had genetic defects and they would not implant them into me. And I was devastated. But to kind of hop back to that bloated feeling, imagine having a period with 30 eggs. Like I remember sitting down and I could feel my womb move. And I remember saying to the nurse, I was like, is this normal? Like, is this what? And she was like, no, you should definitely feel it. Like you have a lot of eggs. But that's also what that said, just because you have a lot of eggs doesn't necessarily guarantee that you're going to get pregnant. There's no guarantees with this. My next retrieval with the 40 eggs, I did have 2 good embryos and one of them is my daughter, Lucky. But I remember feeling that. I felt so freaking bloated, so heavy. It was a lot because it was just like, again, going back to, is this going to work? Like I felt like a cow. It literally felt like a freaking cow. And no offense to the cows, but I was just like, I felt so huge and I've never felt that bloated ever in my life again. And I'm obviously still a menstruating woman, but I have never felt anything in that intensity in my life.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to my cooking show. Today we're making eggs. Got this pen, got the Q-caps, vinegar. So today is my first ultrasound.
By the way, I remember having all of these supplies and all of these items and all of the drugs and also keeping them in my refrigerator. I did the same exact thing. I have a story to share about that.
I don't want to say it's my first ultrasound overall. Basically, what happened was my first ultrasound was my fertility check, where they counted the number of follicles that I had. Now, when you go in to get your fertility checked, because I've talked about what do you do if you get your fertility check, what does that mean? They do 2 things. They give you an ultrasound where they count the number of follicles that you have, and then they do blood work to test something known as your AMH level. It's kind of like a blood work marker that gives a general idea of how many eggs you have in your reserve.
So I've already talked a little bit about the whole follicles piece and just how, it's honestly a very invasive process. The ultrasound is not like a regular ultrasound in terms of checking your tummy. No. They're ultrasounding all kinds of things. It is it's very invasive, and they are checking all the nooks and crannies of your lady parts, just so that they can be able to understand what they're working with. Because again, everyone's different depending on what your age, your lifestyle, all those different things. That all plays into it. Your hormones, if you have any type of inflammatory diseases or whatever it may be, all of that can play a part in terms of the viability and the procedure in which they need to go about helping you facilitate this. In addition to that, that also decides what type of medication that you're going to get and how much you need to be injected, because no one has the same medication or the same, I guess you could say, protocol for this. Everyone's protocol, everyone's experience is very different. I don't know anyone who took the exact same drugs as me. I know folks who took some of the drugs, but not all of the drugs. I might need these hormones. I might need this stimulator, and you might need that. Again, everyone is very different, but I love that she's giving so much background, so much understanding, even the biological aspect of it, which, by the way, I'm not a doctor, so you shouldn't be listening to everything that I say. You should take it with a grain of salt. See a fertility doctor. I had an amazing one. I will share his information if you like. I wouldn't have been able to do this egg retrieval if I did not have the job that I had at the time. I was working for a casino gaming company, and part of my benefits from working there as a project manager was that I had infertility benefits, rather. And that included support in terms of different procedures, depending on what I needed to get pregnant. I actually exercised one of them before I did IVF. I did an IUI, which is an insemination, basically. And that was like my first little dip in my toe in terms of getting those hormones stimulated and getting the timing right. So they captured his sperm and timed my period the right way so I could get pregnant. And it's not as invasive, but it still has some stimulation aspects to it that you just kind of need to know. I did get pregnant through that, which was amazing. But then unfortunately, I had a miscarriage at about 14 weeks. And that was devastating for us because we thought we were in the clear, but unfortunately we were not. And ultimately I had to have a DNC. I shared this with my insurance because they actually check on you throughout this entire process. It was actually a really nurturing environment as I look back on it. And they advised me that, hey, have you considered using your IVF benefit? And I was like, I didn't know I had an IVF benefit. And they're like, yes, your company pays for a portion of it. That's something that you're able to do. You might want to consider it. And so I approached it with my infertility doctor. They're like, yes, we can work with your insurance. This is how much you're going to have to pay. This is what it's going to look like. This is going to be the process. And my daughter would not be here today if I did not have that job and I did not have that benefit, because it took a nice load of the financial cost off for us. We still had to pay things out of pocket. For instance, like the pre-genetic screening, and still a nice chunk of the actual cost of the procedures. And again, we did it twice. So you've had the retrievals, and then you also have the transfers, which we only did one transfer. And that's when they put the embryo back in you. And that's a whole other process, by the way. It ain't just wham, bam, drop it in. Your body has to prep for that too. It's very similar to prepping to taking the eggs out, honestly, in terms of just expectations. I was so thankful that I got that support from my insurance, not only just financially, but just mentally and emotionally. Like, I got very close to my nurse. I can't remember her name. I wish I did. But I got very close to my nurse throughout that process from United Healthcare, I believe. And then I also found out I had therapy benefits. And I decided, you know what? I need to get some support through this. And they actually suggested maybe you find a therapist who knows about infertility treatments. I was able to find a therapist who actually experienced IVF, who actually did IVF as well. So that helped me when I showed up at my therapy sessions, that the playing field was even. I didn't have to bring her up to date. I didn't have to explain to her things like I am to you guys. This is this is that, and the protocol, blah, blah. She got it. She knew right away exactly what I was dealing with and what was happening. So that just made life extremely easier for me. And I highly suggest that to anyone. I suggested to AOC that if you're going to embark on this, you've got to get support. You've got to find your community. There's those Facebook groups out there now. I mean, there's so many individuals on social media who are talking about this, which is great. There are, as you can hear, there's therapists who could support you in this. You got to find your community. You got to find your people to get through this. Like they say, it takes a village, and it starts very early where you got to get that village.
All right, everyone, good morning. It is, what time is it? I left my watch at home. Anyways, it's 7:44 in the morning. I'm driving to the studio at ABC. We're going to do a quick outfit check. Blue pants, blue blazer, and a lunchbox from Target. $15 with thousands of dollars of medicine inside. And we're going to see how this goes. All right, yeah. And we're in ABC. We're getting glam right before. You say hi. This beautiful. Ready. She ready.
All right, here we go. Lunchbox. Let's see. Let's see if I can speed run. I'm gonna speed run it.
The spring sweat memories.
Shot here yesterday, so I need to do it here today. This one takes a while, actually. Never mind. That one didn't take a while. Yesterday it took longer.
I just remember, dang, this is crazy. I just remember going through this, and it started just becoming routine because I did it 2 times. So the first time it was just like, oh my gosh, I got to stick myself in my stomach. And it was a lot because I did it myself. My husband's in the military, by the way. He was traveling all the time. So I had to do it myself. He wasn't always home. And yeah, sticking yourself with a needle is not fun. And does it get easier? I think so. It got easier for me. I kind of got over it and it was just like, okay, post myself, you know how to angle it. But I just do remember I remember staring at it like, I got to stick all these and this one in me. And it was just a whole process and just being so nervous about doing it. Like, am I going to poke myself the wrong way? Did I put enough medication in the tube, like in the syringe? Am I doing this right? And then the timing piece is really important. Like you have to take some of these medications at a certain particular time. So that's why she's got her lunchbox and keeping it cold. That's a big thing. Funny enough, one of the stories I was going to share with you is we used to have a fridge in our old home. And it was just like a small little fridge where we only kept drinks in it for waters for the bedroom because it's hot here in Vegas. I live in the desert. And so eventually, as I went through this journey, that whole thing was full of medication. It was full of needles and the medication and vials and suppositories. Like, oh my gosh, it was full of all the things. But the thing is, like, and AOC is showing it, life has to continue. Like, you have to keep going. She's still working. If you continue watching this clip, she's at The View. She's working and speaking to folks or wherever she was at. She's still going on TV and talking to folks, speaking on behalf of her constituents. She still had a job to get done, regardless of the fact that she's going and embarking on this journey. And it's like a very invisible journey. Not everyone knows what you're doing and what you're struggling with unless you tell them. And then as she's doing, she's showing them. We're also just not seeing what's happening between these things. You know, she's being very transparent, which I really appreciate, but we don't know all of her inner dialogue that's happening. We don't know the conversations with her potential partner or her family or the girlfriends. There's a lot happening behind the scenes that we're not privy to. But even just showing these moments, it's really allowing us to kind of see a bit of those private moments with this journey. I just hope that it just, again, continues to destigmatize and normalize that this is a way in which you can grow your family.
And some of you have talked about the cost of these medications. Yes. And also the comparison shopping is wild. One pharmacy, when they ran my insurance, which doesn't cover anything. I said this before. When they ran my insurance, they quoted me $7,000 for this medicine. And then when they didn't run my insurance, because I'm paying the full price for it anyway, it was $3,000. So it's like so much of this is very inconsistent. And it just relies on people just kind of knowing or not.
Yeah, the cost is extreme. I'm not going to go into the specifics of mine because, again, everyone's situation's different. But I've heard of folks spending anywhere from like $7,000 on IVF to $20,000. And that's for just one round. Okay. So with my insurance, I will give you guys an example. They only pay for one round. The following round, the first round, they paid a portion of that first round. The second round of my retrieval to get those eggs out, those 40, I had to pay for the pre-genetic screening again. And I paid out of pocket to do it again. So yeah, it adds up really quick. And again, there's also a whole cost to put them back in. Once you have the eggs, once you make them into embryos, or once they make them into embryos, again, it's not wham, bam, put it back in. It's a whole process. There's more medication. The medication piece, we were fortunate as a military family. We did get some military discounts, but not always. So if you are military, make sure you ask. It's worth it. Had to send the IDs in. It was cheaper to do cash pay. As she mentions, paying out of pocket was cheaper than going through my insurance, which is just, again, ridiculous because it's like, what am I paying for?
It's a massive trade-off to make. For me, one of the trade-offs that I've made is that I don't own a house. Boomers or Gen X, they saved up for a down payment on a house. And for me, I saved up to preserve my fertility. And I'm lucky to even have been able to do that. I've been kind of pursuing this on the lower end of the cost spectrum. For some people, in a lot of places, it can be $15,000 or, $13,000 to pursue something like this all in. And so you have to ask yourself, is it worth it? And that is not the same answer
for every person.
I mean, there's no right answer, quite honestly. And we're only talking about, because granted, I did this 8 years ago coming up here. So the cost has probably gone up. We're talking tariffs, we're talking inflation, all the things, you know what I mean? The cost of living. It probably costs more now to do this. Just her freezing her eggs is $15,000. So I could only imagine what it is now. That was around how much, it was 20 something thousand for each round, just about if we were to pay out of pocket. I didn't pay out of pocket for both, thank God. But again, like I still had to pay a nice portion. And that was a lot. It was just like, how are we going to do this? We had to make cuts in our home to be able to afford to do it. It was ridiculous. And it just sucks because I know that that's a privilege that shouldn't be one. This should be accessible and available to everyone. The cost of this shouldn't be crazy like that. Like the fact that I have to make such a sacrifice and such an investment to grow my family is just wild to me. It's just wild. And it's just crazy because it just goes to show you motherhood can be expensive before the child even exists.
And in this public conversation, want to do is make women feel fear or put our heads in the sand. Two things are true at the same time. That we should not be scared. We should not be making decisions out of fear. Biology is real, but so are our options. What I want people to feel is that they have information that is often hidden from us because we're all kind of almost taught to pursue a lot of this in private. And when we have information, this is the part that they don't like. When you have information, when you know what this is like, you are able to make a decision for yourself, free from fear. And people don't like that because fear is a big thing it's a big tool for control. And one of the biggest ways that people make women feel fear is around our reproductive freedom, is around our choices to make a family or not make a family. Fear statements like, you're getting too old. Fear statements like, if you have a kid too young, you ruined your life. Fear statements like, if you choose not to have a kid, or if you don't have a kid, you're going to die alone. There's going to be no one to take care of you. All of these statements, let me keep this on. All of these statements are fear-based statements. And I would argue that making a choice from that place is not what I want, not what I would want for myself. I want women to make these choices from a place of self-assuredness.
Yeah, she's preaching to the choir as far as it comes with me. Like you're going to find it very hard for me to feel that it is wrong, that I have options in terms of how I want to live my life. Before I did IVF, when I first met my husband, before I met my husband, when we were dating, even before we were dating, I was very on the fact that I was not having children. And so I didn't feel the need to have children. One, I hadn't met someone that I wanted to build that life with, but the world was already crazy. I already knew kids were really expensive because I have siblings who are 13 and 15 years younger than me. And so as a teenager, they were the best birth control ever. I love them, but they were the best birth control ever. So I didn't feel this visceral need to have children because I was babysitting them and I'm like, nah, that's a lot of work. I'm not trying to do all that. I'm going to be selfish. I'm going to live my life. When I met my husband, he already had children. I'm like, this is great. This is a built-in family. This is awesome. They're amazing kids, amazing mothers. I was very, very fortunate. But then I changed my mind. And that's the power of free will and choices, is that you can do that. And I'm so thankful I had the option to change my mind. And I had the access and the ability to do these things later on in life when it was a good time for me and him. And I wouldn't change a damn thing about it, honestly, because I was able to live and thrive and do all kinds of things. Beginning of my 30s, I don't feel like I left anything on the table since when I had my daughter. Like, I don't feel like, oh my gosh, if only she wasn't here and blah, blah, blah. No. I did all that stuff already. And now I get to really be locked in on this chapter. And thank freaking goodness I had access to IVF, because I would have just had miscarriage after miscarriage after miscarriage if I just kept shooting in the dark, for better lack of words, and not been able to get very intentional and methodical and have a scientific method or pathway to increase my odds to expand my family. And it's just ridiculous that people would go after people for having this choice, to having the audacity to have choice, to decide they do or do not want to have children and decide what they want to do with their body. But then two, once you make that choice, you're going to limit my choice and make it hard for me to access it. Then you're going to shame me because I proceeded with it. That's just wild to me. It's wild. I'll just say this is that you don't have to agree with AOC politically to recognize how powerful it is that she is sharing this journey. Okay. Visibility has so much value. Visibility allows you to dream, to be curious, and actually see, hey, I can do that. I can poke myself in the stomach. I can make decisions about my body so that I can do these things. I can still work while trying to do this. Like, I don't have to, it's not a this or that, it's an and. You understand what I'm saying? So visibility provides someone the lens and access to know that it's available to them. And that's incredibly powerful, whether you agree with her politically or not. The thing is, this is one woman's journey. And egg freezing, IVF, infertility, every woman's journey is very different, okay? IVF isn't everyone's journey. I know many individuals, most individuals who are getting pregnant without needing that. And that's totally fine. But for those who it's worked for, I think most are very thankful that they've been able to use it. Basically, IVF isn't everyone's journey, but biological motherhood isn't everyone's journey. Sometimes it's adoption, sometimes it's surrogacy, and sometimes it's IVF. Like, thank goodness we have options, okay? But basically, there are many ways in which women begin to prepare, begin to think, begin to envision, begin to grieve, begin to experience motherhood. Overall, I hope you take from this video and from her experience with her sharing it is that motherhood can begin a lot sooner before you're pregnant. It happens a lot sooner for some of us as you make that first appointment or that first conversation or watching a video like this. That's when that inception of motherhood could actually start. Maybe one day we'll see AOC with a child. Maybe we'll see, the fruits of her labor, for better lack of words. Her journey does not end here. This is just one of the catalysts, one of the beginnings of it. We are watching the messy beginning, the messy middle, per se, of her motherhood journey. Watching her do this makes me wish I would have shown more of mine. So I'm just really thankful she's doing it and she's open to doing it. If you've had to go through fertility treatments, egg freezing, or anything within that realm, I would love to hear about your experience in the comments. Please do share. I think there's something so powerful about us coming together to connect with one another. You just never know who you might be helping, honestly. And I just love to hear what your journey was like. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe, like, and again, leave comments if it's necessary. And I will catch you guys the next time. Thank you.